So,
Hello, 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 hello. This is Truth Be Told podcast. I'm your host, Britt. And today, y'all, we got episode number 85 with Miss CeCe in the building. Today is Sunday. This is a great motivational speech. We're talking about faith versus fear. How you doing today, CeCe?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you for coming on the show today. I appreciate you. I actually follow you. I want you to tell us more about what you got going on before we even go into the topic today. Y'all, if y'all wondering, before we get started, if you're new to this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Both of us are podcast hosts. So I love this community because we're always trying to support one another. So make sure once she gives you her information that you go like, share, and subscribe to the Bottom Line Is podcast as well. So how you doing today, boo?
I'm doing good. Happy Sunday. Again, glad
Happy
to be
Sunday.
here. So, I am CeCe, and my handle is at CeCThediva, CeCe the Diva, Divine Intelligent Vixen with Attitude. But good
Okay.
attitude. So, and yes, I am new to the podcast world, and my podcast is called The Bottom Line Is, where we just kind of talk, I was just thinking about talking with your girlfriends about all the different topics you talk about over a happy hour, on the phone when you're talking about your man, you're talking about your job, you're talking about all the stresses of life. That's what we talk about, and hope that we can touch somebody's life in a positive response and let people know that they're not alone.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think people need safe spaces to be
Yeah,
able to talk about whatever, and that sounds like what the bottom line is. So,
for sure, for sure.
yeah. And so before we go into the topic, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about yourself that you got going on today?
So, I am in the field of HR. So, I am an HR director. I am a caregiver for 15 years, HR for 17 years,
Oh,
and I
wow.
just I look young, and that's how we want to keep it. We want to keep it that way, but I also am a fan of yours, and I also, as soon as we connected, subscribe to. So, this is
Thank you.
exciting. This will be my first time mixing with another podcaster. So, make sure you give us all the love, so we can
Yes, I'm
what
gonna
we
make
do.
sure I do that. I just want to say it takes a considerate, compassionate person to be a caregiver. So when you started off saying that at first, I just knew that you had one of those hearts. A lot of people don't know how strenuous it can be a caregiver. Whatever you're doing, whether it's for your kids, your grandparents, your parents,
Mhm.
anybody, it takes a lot out of you. So I'm just honored to be have you on the show today, and thank you.
No, I appreciate it. And, since you talked about caregiving, that also falls in line with really the topic, having faith
Yeah.
that you can do it. And then the fear that if you can actually carry it out the way that it needs to be done, essentially.
Yes.
So, yeah, definitely
When,
takes a lot of that. I always tell people, most people say, oh, well, they compare it to having kids. But I
mhm.
say your kids are going to grow up to be more independent, while my kids are going to grow up to be more dependent. So
Right,
it's
right.
definitely a significant difference. And yes, it is a strenuous task, both emotionally and physically, for sure.
Oh
So it's a lot
yeah,
of sacrifice.
yes. God bless you. Today's topic, we are talking about faith versus fear, and what you said about caregiving, that does fall right into it. I've had to be a caregiver. My father's been gone since 2008, but my grandpa is still here. So I know how strenuous and it can do so much to the body. It can make you sick physically, emotionally. So I'm gonna keep giving you kudos, and I'm gonna keep praising your name
I
because
appreciate it.
this world is so cruel. So that's why
It is.
I wanted to talk about faith versus fear today. Last week, it's been about a week, I had neck surgery.
Oh,
So I was gonna get on here. I was like, am I gonna get on here with my brace And I just took the brace off today, and I said, I feel amazing now. I got to put it back on because my doctor gonna get me because I'm supposed to be
Yeah,
in it for
don't do
like
that. Don't
six
need to be
weeks.
messing up the spine and all that stuff. No, thank you.
No, I'm not going. I promise I'm not going to do that. But when I say God is so amazing, He is my everything, and that's why I wanted to talk about faith versus fear today. When you think of that topic and both of those attributes, what is your definition of faith and fear?
Mhm. No, for sure. Good question. And I was hoping we started out with that. So, I mean, faith to me is obviously, having that belief. A lot of people, tag it to a religious belief, something that you don't have that is tangible, right? And then fear is that feeling, that emotion that we have inside and where we have doubt, if we can
Mhm.
actually do it. And, it's good to have, I feel like, in my opinion, that it's good to have both, but also having them
Mm.
at a balance because when you have that faith and then things actually turn out the way they're supposed to, that builds and makes your faith stronger. And I'm a firm believer of, God doesn't put more on you than you can bear, although it gets
Mhm.
tough. And you're
Yes.
like, well, God, why are you putting me down this path? Like, I've never been down here before. But you got to have that trust and know that things are going to work out. And that's what I did with my podcast too. I had never watched a podcast before doing this,
Oh,
so
okay. So let's talk
I
a little
just
bit more about that. Yeah, I love that. I love how you started off with telling us the definition of faith and
Mhm.
fear. And what you said it right. I knew you were going to say that as far as with the fear. Fear is good for you.
Yes.
Because yeah, sometimes if we're doing something like if we're crossing the road,
Mhm.
or you're going across the street, you have to have that fear within you to know, okay, I might get hit. So let me make sure that I'm looking both ways. And then that intuition comes up like,
Yeah.
okay, a car is coming or a car is not coming. So when you hear the word fear, sometimes people get, worried or they get scared because they don't really know how to manage that type of emotion. What made you start the Bottom Line podcast? Like you said, you did it out of faith. What brung that up? Let's talk a little bit more about that before
Yeah,
we
no,
go
for
into
sure.
the topic.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. So I just woke up after the new year and I had never heard God talk to me so clearly. And I know that's a struggle for people, like being able to listen and hear God and obey God, and so when I woke up, podcast came in my mind and I was just like, okay, like, what do you want me to do with that? Like, I mean, I've always wanted to be like a talk show host type of thing, in the entertainer world,
Mhm.
but I was like, okay, I don't know nothing about this. So I just put my faith in it. I said, if this is what you want me to do, you spoke so clearly, you're going to provide me with the tools that I need. And that was, like I said, January. And then I started the podcast March 1st. And I had already recorded a lot of episodes in February. I was moving with it, and got everything done. And, it's been going well. So, I mean, I'm just trusting. I'm like, okay, I'm not famous. I'm not this, I'm not that. But like I said, just like caregiving, if me having the podcast is my way to touch people's lives and be able to communicate with them or get them a platform, then that means that I feel like I'm fulfilling God's wish of doing this. So,
Yes, I love it. I love it. And you don't know what God is going to turn your podcast into.
right.
You are being obedient by listening to him. Like you said, some people can't hear him. I actually am one of those people that just started hearing him. So when you said that, it brought chills to me because I used to be like, I can't hear God. I don't know if that's God or not. I think the first
Okay.
time I heard him was actually this year,
Okay.
CC. And the one thing he told me to do was sit still. And
Mm,
I was like, and it was so clear. It was so like I'm like, am I tripping? Like, is that
right.
really him? And then once I started hearing him more, I was like, I would get so scared. Not scared in a way, but
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what they're talking about. Like, this is the voice, that clear discernment voice that
Hmm.
you hear, that is leading you in the right path. Not the voice that's like telling you to do this and do that. It's just a very clear voice. And I just stood up and I thought I was like hearing stuff. And I
Yeah.
told my husband, I was like, you hear that? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I just started crying, started praising him, because when I
Awesome.
moved to Houston, I'm in Houston. I've been in Houston for
Okay.
about 2 years.
Hmm.
When I moved here, it was a leap of faith. It was, and when everybody always asks me, when I go to the doctors, when I go to my kids' school, my kids, they go to the doctors a lot. So I have my daughter, she's in remission for cancer. And
Wow.
so I'm always going to the doctors. And so when I'm going to the doctors, they're like, well, did your job move you here? And I'm like, no. And they was like, well, did your husband job move him here? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
we really just picked a state. We know we wanted to come to Texas, and we just really took that leap of faith. And when I tell you, when you trust in something higher than yourself,
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit that lives within me, I believe in God. I know that this is not I know we're steering a little bit, but
Mhm.
I believe in God. I believe that there is a higher power, a higher person within me that's leading me and guiding me, because of the things that we've been through, the things that you see here on this earth. It gotta be somebody higher. Now you tell me this: how can we have a president that's a convicted felon run for president? This is what
I'm already preparing my escape plan. So like, I cannot.
like, girl. When I tell you, I'm just really like, oh my gosh, I have been in a bubble my entire life. Like,
Yeah.
my parents used to like shield me from stuff. And then it was like when I got older, I started seeing stuff, learning how the world is, learning how to carry yourself and walk in faith and fear. But it's just scary. And I just had to go there because I'm like, what is going on in the world? A convicted felon can't even vote, but a convicted felon can run for president? Make
Yeah.
it make sense now.
When you had the dollar signs behind your name,
Oh yeah. Money
you can
rules the
do
world.
anything
You can
you want. Yeah.
Money definitely rules the world. People will say no, it don't. Yes, it do. Yes, it do.
Yeah.
Because when stuff happens to regular people like us, oh, we going to jail.
Yeah. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like we
Right,
are going.
right.
Sure.
But when we go back to the topic and you talk about faith versus fear, how has your faith carried you this far where you're at right now?
Yeah, it's a lot of faith that I have for sure. Because I mean, there have been some days, but I mean, I grew up in church, singing on the choir, church every Sunday, with my great grandparents. So I started taking care of my great grandmother. I always say I feel like she kind of prepared me for this,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to myself. I
Mhm.
said that wasn't shared the message
Right.
here, but I said okay, okay, you know. I had never pictured doing this in my entire life. I definitely had a whole different plan, for my life, and
Mhm.
it being a caregiver has had made me grounded, and there have been tough times. I mean, hospital visits. I mean, there was one time, summer of 2013 was probably like my worst summer ever. And it's like every time my grandmother came home within 24 hours, we were back at the emergency room. And I've learned so much. My family always says, "Oh, you're darn near a doctor." That's the phrase, you know, unofficial title, I guess I have
Right.
in the family. But I was just like, I remember one of the times when she went back, I was just like, I can't do this. I'm so tired. Like, and it's a song that comes to my mind when I think about those things. And it's trying to remember it now, but like the blood will never lose its power is
Mhm.
one of my favorites. And we used to sing it all the time at communion. And I feel like if it wasn't for the blood of Jesus, not to get, religious here, but it is a Sunday.
Right.
But I really don't. And I know it's nothing tangible per se, the blood running through me, but I feel like if I have just a little piece of Jesus running through me, that if he can do all that he can do, then why can't I do all of what I can do, whether it's helping family, helping somebody else out. And the song, like, you are the source of my strength, those
Mhm.
type of things, I just try to keep myself grounded when it comes to faith, because again, I know that God would not put me in a spot where I couldn't handle it. And even though when you
Mhm.
going through it, man, it feels like you can't handle it. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, we're all human,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But you
Girl,
know,
you got me over here crying.
yeah, that's when you
I'm
have.
sitting over here like I'm trying to hold back, but you got me thinking of the
Yeah,
time that I had to go through all of that. You know,
yeah.
me and my sister, we were tag teaming my grandmother.
Hmm.
This is when I was back home in Charlotte. I'm from North Carolina,
Hmm.
and we was tag teaming. It was we would have to we would have to drive an hour
Hmm.
every day. Like it was like, okay, who gonna stay with grandma? We would like,
Hmm.
Desiree, you gonna be with her these couple of days, and I'm gonna be with her. I had the morning shift, she had the night shift.
Hmm.
It was that strenuous, a everyday thing. And it'll get some times where money was running low.
Hmm.
Gosh, I gotta go. I gotta need some gas.
Yeah.
Like who, it would just be so many times. But when you said like having the blood, we can go there, girl, because this is I believe in God. And I'm not one of those that let's steer away from it. No, you can talk about anything that this, like I said, this is a safe space. You
Hmm.
can talk about anything that's dear to you. And when you're talking, I'm just like, I believe in divine connections because I'm like, CeCe is on my podcast this Sunday for a reason because you're not just ministering to our audience for your podcast and my podcast and everybody else. You're ministering to me too. Like as you're talking, I'm just realizing like just being a caregiver, like you said, it made you grounded. It made you
Right.
grounded in your faith. It made you know that the blood of Jesus, just that you know that he's gonna get you through.
For sure. Yeah, and and to curb it with the whole faith versus fear. When my great grandmother fell in 2015, we were coming in the house from a doctor's appointment, and she fell. She also had to have a neck brace on because when you fall like that and it hits your head, they never know, so they just like leave you straight.
Right.
And I didn't know as much as I did about the health field. I probably would have made some changes that made some things go differently, but obviously that things went the way that God wanted them to go, right? So,
Right.
when she came home from rehab after a couple of months, so that was August of 2019, that she came home in October 2019, our whole time changed. So, I live here with my aunt, who is my great grandmother's daughter, and my grandmother used to be upstairs sleeping. Now we have to have a hospital bed. She can't walk. It's like, we both work full time. What do we, how are we going to do this? Right.
Right.
And so I remember being like, all right, well, first I had guilt. Okay.
Mhm.
I just put that out there. I had guilt because I was like, she fell under, while I was right there and I didn't turn around fast enough to catch her. So once I got through that and I realized I can't go back, we all
Right.
try to hold on to these things that happen. And obviously it was meant to happen. We might not
Right.
see the vision when we going through, but it does happen,
Right.
right?
It wasn't your
So,
fault.
right. And so once I got through that and then understanding what needs to come next, I remember, having her in the hospital bed, which is a whole change for her, lifestyle change. And I remember like, okay, well, we got to time ourselves because we got to be able to get her up and then get to work and do this and do that and then find aid so we can work. And and it was that fear, like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? Life is
Mhm.
changing like right before my eyes, like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, right? And so, my aunt and I, we tag team washing her up because it was only her and I, as far as the family is
Mhm.
concerned. Just like right now, my grandmother, her daughter, is her and I. So I had two of them at the same time. And
Right.
so, I timed ourselves. And then one day my aunt was sleeping good. And I said, you know what? I think I can do this by myself. And I got her up. My grandmother trusted me. And I had been picking her up for the next 10 plus years. So, and it's just that, but it was a healthy fear. And, like I
Right.
said, it was stressful. It was, a lot of anxiety with it too. Right. And I was also pursuing my master's degree. I had just started my master's
Congratulations.
degree. Yeah. And that was, yeah, the beginning of August, I started school, and then she fell at the end of August. And it was like,
A
okay, so I'm
whirlwind.
working full time. I'm getting my master's full time, and I got to figure out how to be a full time caregiver. So it was just like, do I stop going to school? Do I do this? Do I do that? And God said, we're going to make a way. And,
That's right.
and that's what we did. I graduated. My grandmother was right there at my graduation. And, I know that she was satisfied in the care that I gave her before she passed. So, and that's what warms my heart, and like I said, I would be lying if I said that it's easy. It's definitely not. It's definitely not. And every
Oh
day you just
no, it's
never
not.
know what you're going to get when you're taking care of somebody. So it is that like healthy fear every day. But again, trusting that God is going to, put you around people that you need to be around, and put you in the right spaces. I'm blessed that we have great doctors on the team that I can call for anything, anytime I need them. You know what I mean? And that's
I
rare.
love
That's
it.
rare. So shout out to
Oh no,
them.
exactly. Yes, because just because they got doctor in front of them don't mean they know what they talking about all the time. It's a blessing that you are and still was an advocate for your great grandma. Because some people don't have that. Like when they get older, they be by themselves. Our generation or even our moms and dad generation, they don't want to do it. It's about five of them. Girl, I know. It'd be like, dang, somebody got to take, you have to do this. Like, when my grandma was going through what she was going through, it wasn't nothing. I couldn't see nothing else. I didn't want to see nothing else. I'm like, we ain't got no choice. She
Yeah.
ain't going to be here. We trying to give her as much more life that she can have. And then, like I said, I lost my grandmother too. I lost both of them in 2020. So you just talking to somebody who know what you went through.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just like, bless you, CeCe, because keep being grounded in God. Keep looking for that higher power because
Mhm.
Jesus is your doctor. Jesus is gonna
Exactly.
get you and your aunt and whoever else that is attached to you through whatever you need to get through when it's versus faith versus fear
For
you
sure.
know so I can't stop commending you, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, when I get off this phone call, I already know I'm gonna tell my husband, babe, like, she this, I didn't know all of this. How would I know? And we're
Yeah.
connected in that way. That's why I'm just like, God always brings divine connections my way, and that's one thing I love about the podcast world,
Yeah.
networking with different people.
For sure.
Everybody ain't for everybody. I done had some people block me. I done blocked some people too. It don't even be that
Wow.
serious. Yeah, it don't be
Right.
that. It really don't be that serious to me.
Uh-huh.
But once I got blocked, I laughed and I was like, okay, well, we don't mesh.
Right. Oh wow. Like that's wow. Okay. Like I wouldn't have expected that. Like, but okay. Again, I'm new to
Yes,
it
that's
all, so
girl. Yes, if you miss I think I missed the episode and I had to reschedule. And some people just, their time is valuable. I mean, my time is valuable too, but life be life, and so I don't
yeah.
take nothing. Everybody got their own stuff they're going through,
Right.
and one thing I wanted to ask you, because I know I'm not gonna take up more of your time. I wanted to know, for people that are struggling,
Mhm.
with faith and fear, like, what are some things that you could tell the audience just
Mhm.
to keep them going? Because getting up out of bed is hard, going to work is hard every day. And I
Yeah.
really feel like people try to put on this, you have to put on the armor of God, or you have to put on this super hat if you don't believe in God, Superman hat or whatever, and
Mhm.
be fake and smile. Yeah, 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 I'm at work. But deep down inside, people are really dealing with issues every day. What are some things that you could tell people who are dealing with faith versus fear?
No, for sure. And when you mentioned job, yeah, job, that's a whole nother thing. I always say I'm like, I gotta keep working so I can pay my grandmother's bills. But I tell you, if it was just me, oh, I would have took a lot of more leap of faith, out here. But I have to have that steady income for her.
I
So,
understand.
it is what it is. But what I would say is, I mean, yeah, that clock goes off. I'm be real with you. I hit snooze good 10 times. I really do. And, because it's hard. It's like, oh, another day, the same
Right.
old stuff, and I usually say another day, another dollar,
Hmm.
or I got to do what I got to do. Those are like my, my sayings, my mantras, whatever you want to call it. But I sit on the side of the bed and I mean, I just thank God because first and foremost, because no matter what you have going on, you didn't have to wake up. We don't know
Amen.
how the other side. is. And I'm glad that I woke up with feeling in my body. I might have aches and pains just like anybody else, but I first of all thank God. I think that it's also important to just realize that, it's easy to get quickly overwhelmed,
Yeah.
when you have a lot going on. And this is something that I struggle with too personally. So as I'm saying it out loud, it's a reminder to myself, writing things down, uh, just making a list. For me, I like to write things on post-its, what I got to do, because again, it's hard managing being at work for 8 plus hours. Usually I'm at work for 10 plus hours. And then, coming home, making doctor's appointments, doing this and doing that. And I get overwhelmed. I forget some things, sometimes. So you got to allow
Right.
yourself some grace. Okay. That is very important. I feel like we are our biggest critics and we are
Mm,
very hard on ourselves. And like I said, I know that I am very hard on myself and I have a lot of high expectations for myself. But I also need to, as I'm making those high expectations, I need to also remember to make realistic expectations.
right.
And then affirmations I think are very important. Now I know a lot of people might write them on like their bathroom mirrors and anything. I don't have them written down, but I just tell myself like, hey, you a bad bee, and you gonna make it happen. You know what I mean? So whatever don't get done today, we're gonna just try again tomorrow, like,
That's
because it's
right.
always tomorrow. And that's very important too. And again, having that trust that God is going to work it out, having great people on your support team. Again, it's just my aunt and I, as far as family is concerned. But we also, I have a great circle of friends, that support me and are my biggest cheerleaders. And, I don't know what I would do without them on my side, on my team. And, you know, just knowing, like I said, it's going to work out. It's going to work out whether you want it or how you want it. I think it's a saying where they say, and I might say it wrong, so correct me
It's
if I'm
okay.
wrong. But
Okay.
when you make plans, God laughs, because we can make all
Mm,
the plans in the world. If it
mm.
ain't on God's agenda, then I mean, it ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna
Right.
happen.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, and that's for sure. And those are my biggest things. And then self-care. Self-care, I think a lot of it's been very much promoted since COVID too. I mean, I've always tried to make sure I had that time of separation, whether it's a vacation, going to acupuncture, talking to a therapist, or just like socializing with my friends, because most people would think like, oh, well, when do you have time for your friends? I make time for my friends
That's
because
right.
I have to have that social outlet. I had to be able to step away and to be able to rejuvenate. So again, allowing yourself the time and the space to be able to do so with that. So those are my tips and my advice for people in similar situations.
Oh, I love it. You said everything. See, that's why I was like, when I gave you this topic,
Mhm.
I didn't know what topic we were gonna go with yet. I always let God lead me. I don't know
Yeah,
why, I just do. And then this just came up, and everything you just said is some great tips that
yeah,
people can use. Saying your affirmations, and you can say it throughout the day. I know sometimes when I feel low, I'll start looking at myself and saying, I am this, I am that. I am the
yeah.
head and not the tail. I am above and not beneath. I am living within you, Lord. Those things keep me going. And
Right.
like you said, having self-care. I love that you have a friend group. I think that is very important right now. I feel like I'm kind of in a shift with friends. I'm asking God to shred friends, but also show me who's for me and who's not for me. and
Mm,
and and I love he's doing it, CC. He's doing it, and I love people for being who they are. I've met some awesome girls down here, but then I've also pulled back a little bit because I'm like, okay, I know what God has for me and what I'm trying to do. So I commend you for even knowing, like writing things down on sticky notes, or even journaling, just being self aware of
yeah.
where you are in that present moment speaks volumes. And I think that long as you keep doing that, girl, you're going to be just fine. God has got you in the palm of his hand.
He
He's
got us
like,
both.
he
He
got
got us.
us. That's right. He got us both in the palm of his hand. And I commend you for that. So I just can't stop saying thank you. Thank
Thank
you for sharing this. Now, before we go, I
Hmm.
want you to tell me, if you was 14-year-old CeCe, what would you tell her
Hmm.
today?
It's funny. I had thought about that actually. This week I was in a conference for HR professionals, and that was a session. Like, well, I didn't get a chance to make it, it was full in there, but the topic was, what would you tell your younger self? And I don't, I don't know. That actually is a stumping question because when I saw that topic, I was just like, well, I would tell myself that the plans that you have are not going to quite go the way you
That's right.
anticipated, because I mean, I had planned on being in another state after college, after high school. I mean, everything was going to, shift and all the sacrifices that I made, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. If I go back
Amen.
and reflect, and I mean, I was already close with my great grandmother.
Mhm.
That was my number one, right? So I am blessed that I got to spend those moments with her, and that she wanted me, to be that person, around her. So I think, to sum it up, I think I would tell myself, like, hey, you're gonna go through some trials and tribulations,
That's
but
right.
you still gonna come out on top. It might not be on top you
Yes.
want, but you still gonna come out on top. And I'm gonna make sure and God gonna make sure He take care of you because you one of His soldiers. So yeah.
Yay. And she drops the mic. Okay,
That's
CeCe.
just what the bottom line is.
I know that's right.
Yes.
Yes. I
So
love this topic today. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for letting us know the difference between faith and fear.
yeah.
Guys, keep going. This is Motivational Sunday. It's a new week. I hope you guys have an amazing week. We are going to sign out. This is episode number, I don't even know if this is 84 or 85. Girl, these pain medicines is kicking in.
No, no.
But this is but this is the episode with CeCe. Faith versus fear. We are signing out. You guys have an amazing week. Thank you, Buki.
Thank y'all so much. Take care.
Yes.